Are you a landlord in Florida, specifically Northeast Florida? If so, you know the importance of tenant screening in order to ensure that you get the right tenant in your property. In today's video, we're going to walk through 8 steps to help you do just that. This video will include legal updates and help you avoid any missteps in your tenant screening process. Hello, my name is Marc Hassan. I'm the CEO and broker of Spectrum Realty Services, LLC, located here in Jacksonville, Florida. For over 20 years, we've been helping landlords manage their rental properties. During that time, we've screened thousands of tenants and have developed a proven process to help avoid missteps, to fall in line with any legal obligations, and to get the right tenants in residential properties. Step 1 in the tenant screening process is to conduct a thorough credit check. You must always ensure that you have the tenant's written permission before you run a credit check. There are Fair Credit Reporting Act requirements, and this is one of them. When looking at the tenant's credit history, you'll be given a window in the tenant's financial past. Do not look strictly at the tenant's credit score alone. You'll want to look for patterns. What kind of debt do they have, etc. Florida pro tip: there is no limit on what you can charge for a credit application. That said, check your local market and make sure that you are being competitive in your application fees in order to not eliminate any potential tenants. For Florida landlords, remember, evictions are public record. If you're using a background screening company, they should provide you with a tenant's eviction history. If you're doing it yourself, remember to check the public records. Always remember to apply any application criteria to all tenants equally in order to avoid fair housing issues. Step 2 in the tenant screening process is to verify income and financial stability. Verify the tenant's income by asking for a proof of income. This proof can come in the way of pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns for self-employed individuals, and even job offer letters for tenants that are moving in from out of the city or state. The rent should be 30% of the tenant's gross monthly income. In other words, their income should be roughly 3 times the monthly rent. Why is this important? This is important to make sure the tenant has the capacity in their income to pay the rent and all other living expenses. In Florida, there's no set ratio for income to rent. However, this is a good practice that is used both in Florida and on a national level. You can change this ratio. Just be sure that you're giving yourself the best possible chances of getting a tenant that has sufficient income to pay their rent. Step 3 in the tenant screening process is employment verification. Your application should include written permission from the tenant to contact their employer. With this written permission, you should contact the tenant's HR department or manager. You should request verification of their position, their salary or wage, and their length of employment. For self-employed or freelance tenants, employment verification may mean looking at bank statements, client contracts, or tax returns. In Florida, we have many freelance or independent contractors, as well as military personnel, so adapt accordingly to the situation. Florida twist: if you are in Northeast Florida, there's a good chance that military personnel will apply for your property. Florida has a unique provision that requires a 7-day response time if the applicant is active military. Within this time, you must reply with a written response. Step 4 of the tenant screening process is identity verification. In this age of rampant identity theft and rental scams, this step is more important than ever. It is a simple step, but it often goes overlooked. Ask for a copy of the applicant's state or government-issued photo ID, driver's license, or a passport. Verify the tenant's social security number and that their driver's license and name matches their social security number. While Florida law does not mandate specific ID checks, you'll want to apply this step uniformly in order to avoid any fair housing issues. In fact, all steps should be uniform in order to avoid any fair housing issues. If you ask for one tenant's driver's license, you should ask for all tenants' driver's license. This is a simple step and should be very easy to follow. By confirming identity, you are also verifying that the tenant's background check and credit report are being run on the correct person. You would not want to confuse John A. Smith with John B. Smith. Feeling overwhelmed by these processes? Remember, Spectrum Realty Services is here to help. As a professional property management company, we have streamlined tenant screening processes and can handle all this for you in a proficient and legal way. Contact us if you'd like to hear more about our services. Step 5 of the tenant screening process is to check rental history and landlord references. A tenant's past behavior is a key indicator and the best way to determine their future behavior. You'll want to ask past landlords about the tenant's payment history, how many late fees they've had, did they take care of the property, were there complaints from neighbors, how many maintenance requests did they put in, and perhaps most importantly, would that landlord rent to them again? A landlord's enthusiasm is a key indicator of the tenant's past performance. Pro tip: the tenant's current landlord may give a rose-colored review of the tenant's behavior and history just to get that tenant out of their property. Make sure you check any prior landlord history in order to get the full picture of the tenant's behavior. Step 6 in the tenant screening process is pet and assistance animal verifications. If you allow for pets in your properties, even on an exception basis, you should have a spot in your application where the tenant can declare any pets that they may have. Remember, over 70% of U.S. residents have pets, so it's a good idea to consider allowing pets in your properties. When verifying pets, you should ask for a picture of the pet, any records from the vet, and potentially meet the pet to ensure that that pet will make a good neighbor and not cause any damage or disturbances to your properties or neighbors. If allowing pets in your property, you should disclose any deposit requirements, pet fees, or pet rent prior to tenant application. If this is not disclosed up front, you might find disgruntled applicants asking you for a refund of their application fee. Now, it is very important to distinguish the difference between pets and emotional support animals or assistance animals. Emotional support animals, or ESAs, and assistance animals are not considered pets under fair housing rules. Recent laws in Florida have added additional protections for ESAs, but they have also added protections against violating or misusing that term. Be sure to know the details of what constitutes an assistance animal and an emotional support animal. In summary, embrace your pet screening process and know the difference between pets and service animals. HUD and other agencies have come down hard on those that abuse or misuse pet fees against service animals or ESA animals. Step 7 in the tenant screening process is criminal background checks. Safety is paramount. You'll want to verify whether or not the tenant has any violent criminal history, drug offenses, or other issues that could cause risk to your property, other residents, or neighbors of the property. Florida law allows landlords to consider criminal history in their application criteria. Unlike some other states, there is no ban the box, which prevents landlords from asking about criminal history. However, fair housing and the Fair Housing Act are still in play here. Be sure to apply all criteria uniformly to all tenants. A fair housing and HUD guideline is to not put an overly broad criteria when it comes to criminal history. Allow anyone to apply to your property and make your decisions using a uniform criteria. Step 8 of the tenant screening process is the final review and selection of the appropriate applicant. You've gathered all the information: credit reporting, background screening, landlord verifications, employment verifications, pet information, etc. Apply all the criteria uniformly to any applicants for your property and make the selection of the best tenant for your property. Before signing the lease, we do have a few more tips to help you with this process. Tip number 1 is to document everything. All applications should be in writing and signed by the tenant. This can be digital signatures, but it must be documented. Tip number 2 is to be consistent. Consistently apply all criteria to all tenants. Tip number 3 is know the protected classes, federal laws, and some state and local laws. Tip 4 is to deny any applicants in writing. Do so politely and briefly. Step 5 is to follow Florida's disclosure laws. Once you've gotten to lease signing, be sure to follow any Florida disclosure laws in your lease. Step 6 is to beware of any new developments. Both on a local and state level, laws can change regularly. In Florida, there is the Florida Landlord Tenant Act. Be sure to know this act and remain updated on any legal changes. Finally, when in doubt, consult with the pros. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it or got some benefit out of it, please give us a thumbs up. And please subscribe to our channel. For more information about Spectrum Realty Services LLC and how we can help you, Google us or visit spectrumrealtypm.com. Thank you.